It's our declaration of economic independence, but now it's our turn to prosper.
Well, President Trump declared today Liberation Day. He unveiled the largest tariff package in generations. The president announcing 25% tariffs on all foreign-made cars that will go into effect at midnight. And with that, the global trade war escalates. Thanks for joining us on this busy Wednesday night. I'm Priscilla Casper.
And I'm Colton Bradford. Now, President Trump did suffer a small setback. Senate lawmakers passed a Democratic-led resolution to block his tariffs on Canadian products. 4 Republicans supported that measure, and it now heads to the House that could potentially ignore it.
We want to bring in our NBC 10's Jericho Tran. She has more on the new round of tariffs.
Well, the Trump administration has declared a national emergency to increase the country's, quote, competitive edge. These new tariffs may benefit companies operating here in the United States, but it could add some additional costs to those dealing outside of the country.
In fact, what he's doing is imposing a tax on all of us.
Make America wealthy again.
President Donald Trump's new round of tariffs, a hot-button issue facing contrasting reactions.
That's going to help us domestically, but also going to help us internationally.
The discounted reciprocal tariffs placed on display by the president today.
We're going to charge them 20%.
Implementing tariffs of at least 10% throughout all countries, including China with 34% and 20% for the European Union.
If all of the tariffs go through as planned, we will have the highest tariff rates we've had in roughly a century.
Excel Dryer Incorporated here in Massachusetts says they'll benefit from President Donald Trump's new round of tariffs.
We're now 100% sourced and made in America, so our product is tariff-proof.
And while the American-based company sees this as an opportunity to weed out the competition,
Dyson, World Dryer, they're made in Malaysia, China, and a different place of the world, so they'll be impacted more on the components of their products than we will.
Economists warn this might create varying effects throughout the United States.
Boston area and New England are going to be relatively well off in that they're not as sensitive to tariffs on a lot of the goods because of the way that their economy is set up. But the Midwest, parts of the South, it could be very bad in many communities that are heavily reliant on manufacturing or construction or mining. Especially as other countries, including the EU, Mexico, China, Canada, Japan, and South Korea pledge to respond to these tariffs. The expectation is that there's going to be some sort of retaliation on specific tariffs. We saw that already from Canada to some extent, where the tariffs are levied to try to cause economic pain.
Now, the 10% baseline tariff for all U.S. trading partners goes into effect on April 5th, with more reciprocal tariffs going into effect on April 9th. In Boston, Jericho Tran, NBC 10 Boston.
Jericho, thank you. And with that, President Trump has been a long supporter of tariffs. We saw him order it during his first term. Now we're seeing him bring it back up during his second term. It's been a little bit of a tariff roller coaster, you could say. So how did we get here? And most importantly, how is it going to affect you at home? Take a look here. February 1st, that's when the president signed an executive order to impose tariffs on goods coming from Canada, Mexico, and China. 2 days later, he delayed the tariffs, but only on Mexico and Canada for a month. Then, on February 4th, Trump's 10% tariffs on China went into effect. China retaliated, placing tariffs on U.S. products. Well, flash forward to March 4th. The tariffs on Canada and Mexico took effect, along with increased tariffs on China. Days after that, President Trump announcing even more tariffs on Canada, which promptly announced retaliatory measures in return. Then, on March 26, Trump announcing a 25% tariff on all foreign-made cars. That brings us to where we are today, a 10% baseline on tariffs for most countries, which then means it's going to impact the consumer.
So let's continue the conversation and give everyone just a little bit of a global economics class, if you will, and we'll use a real-world example. Welcome to class, everyone. Let's start with the most important question, right? How will they impact you? Tariffs are taxes that companies pay the federal government to import products into our country, but they can also increase costs. We're going to follow the journey of a hypothetical smartphone through our supply chain here in the United States. Now, a smartphone is going to be created at a foreign factory, and when it's ready for exports, we'll start with the manufacturing cost. We'll start up here. Let's say manufacturing costs run you $200, right? After that phone is shipped to the U.S., either by sea or air, there are now shipping fees, which you can see add $20 to the cost. The phone then arrives at a U.S. port of entry where Border Patrol agents assign the import tariff, which is a percentage of the cost of the smartphone so far in its trip. That includes the shipping fee right here. So you can see our tariff now sitting at 10%. That's going to be another $22 that we are going to tack on top of this. So the phone is then shipped to warehouses, distribution centers, or directly to retailers to be sold as well. And this is the big thing that matters. Retailers can either swallow the tariff or pass some of the cost or all of the cost onto you. That brings our total here right now to $272. That is why this matters, and that is why we are explaining this to you tonight. So that's the latest on these tariffs and the latest on the Trump administration today that hopefully gets you caught up a little bit here.